Hey everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make the quick and cozy Celtic weave throw. Let me go ahead and give you some pictures right here of this. This throw features easy to crochet stitches as well as some cable work. Let me show you. We have the V stitch using double crochets, and we have the Celtic weave in the center. If you have not ever worked the Celtic weave before, I highly recommend that you check out the video description below, where I'll place a stitch video on how to crochet this stitch so that you can work up a sample swatch and practice with it for a little while before starting off on such a large project. Okay, well, let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using Universal Yarn Bella Chenille yarn. Each of these balls has 3.5 ounces or 100 grams, 131 yards or 120 meters, and this is 100% polyester, very soft and cushy yarn. Okay, this is also a super bulky or number 6 weight yarn. I just wanted to make a note of that in case you were going to be using yarn substitutions. Also, I recommend that you have a size L or 11 or 8.00 millimeter crochet hook, or whichever hook you decide that you need to reach gauge. And I'm also recommending that you have a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. To begin, we're going to start with a slip knot. And make sure when you pull this tight, don't pull too hard on this particular yarn because it tends to break a little more easily than your typical acrylic yarn. All right, now we're going to make a starting chain of 102 chains. After completing that chain of 102 chains, we're going to work a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to work a double crochet in this chain and in each chain all the way across. I am just working in one side of the V, as you see here. You can work in the back bump if you prefer, but it is not necessary. So go ahead and work these double crochets all the way across the row. After crocheting these all the way across, you should have a total of 99 stitches, and that is not including the chain 3 at the beginning. So let's go ahead on to row number 2. We are going to chain 2. We're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to work a front post double crochet. This is where you wrap the hook, and the hook goes around the body of the stitch. So we're going to do 2 front post double crochets. Now we are going to do a 4 post cable. We're going to wrap the hook 2 times, skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to work a front post treble, again going around the body, but this is a front post treble crochet. If you need more stitch support on post stitches, please check the video description, where I will have a list of some of the Celtic Aran stitches that you can study. In the next stitch, we do the same thing. Front post treble crochet. Now working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped, starting with the one closest to the beginning of the row, or furthest to the right. If you're watching the left-handed version, it would be furthest to the left, I believe. And we work 1 in each of those stitches, crossing the cables. So we have made our first 4-post cable. And this is what we're going to do all the way across the row. Front post double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And again, we work the 4-post cable. I'll do this for you one more time. Skip the next 2 stitches. Front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. I'll just get my thumb out of the way to just show you how this is formed. And then working in front of those last 2 stitches, we front post treble in this stitch and then in this stitch. Just like that. So I'm going to have you work this all the way across the row, and I will show you the last 2 stitches and what to work in the turning chain. So go ahead and work across the row. At the end of row 2, we're going to work 2 more front post double crochets, and in the turning chain we're going to work a double crochet. Let's go ahead and take a look. You should have a total of 16 of these repeats, and you should have 16 of the 4-post cables. So it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do a visual check to make sure that you have that across the row. Now for row number 3, we're going to start with a chain 2. We're going to skip the first stitch, and starting in the next stitch, we're going to work back post double crochets in each stitch across the row. You should have a total of, I believe it will be 98 stitches across. That's not including the chain 2 turning chain. So just notice how I work across this 4-post cable. So I've worked those 2 stitches, and then don't forget the other 2 stitches back here. So you should have a total of 4 back post double crochets over each of the crossed cables, the 4-post cables, and then those 2 post stitches in between the cables. So go ahead and work these back post double crochets all the way across the row. At the end of row 3, work a half double crochet in that turning chain. And let's take a look at the first 3 rows. Okay, so now for rows 4 and 5, we are simply going to repeat rows 2 and 3 again. So I'll go ahead and get you started on row 4 with the chain 2. Skip that first stitch again, and front post double crochet in the first 2 stitches, and back to the 4-post cable, skip 2 stitches, front post treble crochet. We only use post treble crochets when we're crossing the cables. All the other times we'll be using front post and back post double crochets. So we work those 2 treble front post trebles, working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, and so for row 4, we're going to work this all the way across. For row 5, we are going to simply work the back post double crochets all the way across. And remember now, at the end of row 4, we're going to, that's with the front side facing, we're going to work a double crochet in the turning chain. But when we work row 5, that is the row with back post double crochets all the way across. When we get to the end of that row, we're going to work a half double crochet in the turning chain. So go ahead and work rows 4 and 5, and then I'll show you what I have. At the end of that 5th row, we work a half double crochet. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. This is after 5 completed rows. Now we're ready to start row 6, which is going to change up the motif to our double crochet V-stitches and our Celtic weave. So let's go ahead and start this row. Chain 3. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then the next stitch we're going to work a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet, which is essentially a double crochet V-stitch. Then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we're going to work in the next stitch the same, a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet worked again into that same stitch. We're going to do this until we have a total of 12 of these, so I'll work these with you. Skip 2, and then a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Okay, so that's 3, skip 2, double crochet, chain 1, V-stitch, or double crochet, skip 2, let's do that again, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Let's see, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 2, and that is 6. I'll just go ahead and do 12 more in this, I'm sorry, 6 more in the same manner, and then I'll show you what I have until we have a total of the 12 of the double crochet V stitches. After you have 12 of the V stitches, let me show you where you should be. I'm going to go ahead and count the number of cables. You have the 2 stitches on the end, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You should be in the section with the 6th crossed cable. So now to begin the foundation for the Celtic weave, we're going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And starting in the next stitch, we're going to work front post treble in the next 2 stitches, just like that. Working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. And we're going to do that until we have 6 sets of these. So that's 1 set, and again skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. This is the foundation for the Celtic weave, which is remarkably similar. Actually, it's very similar to what we were working here with the 4-post cable. So go ahead and do this until you have a total of 6 of these. On the repeats of this stitch, we're only going to skip 2 stitches. So let me do this with you again. Skip 2 stitches, the next 2 stitches, and then front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that I just skipped. look. Now we have 2 sets. Let's do this again. If you have trouble with this stitch, I do highly recommend that you check out a couple of the links in the video description below that demonstrates it again in different yarn. Not that the yarn makes a difference, but sometimes just seeing a different view of it can be helpful. Okay, skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and working in front of these 2 stitches, front post treble in this stitch and then in this stitch. These are the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, let's check and see what we have. Now we have 3 sets where we've crossed the cables. Go ahead and do that 3 more times, and then I'll show you how to return to the V-stitches. So this is what you should have after completing those 6 Celtic weave, and I like to call them crosses because they have the cables that are crossing. All right, so now we're going to finish out the double crochet V-stitches on the other side. So let's go ahead and skip the 1 stitch here, and then we're going to work the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Again, skip 2 stitches and then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, worked in the next stitch, skip 2, double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. So go ahead and work that across, and I will show you how the row ends. After working those 12 V-stitches, we're going to skip the last 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work a double crochet in the turning chain, just like that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. And it's a good idea if you can go ahead and do a count now, so make sure that you do have 12 of the double crochet V-stitches, and you should have 6 sets of the 4 stitch cable crossings or crosses, and then you should have 12 more of the V-stitches on the other side. Once you've done that, we're ready to go on to row number 7. Let's go ahead and turn, and this is with the back side facing us. And this, again, this is one of the 2 rows. The rows that we just worked plus the row that we're going to work now are the 2 rows that we're going to repeat again and again, but I'll repeat what I did here on the row that follows, just so that there is clarity. Let's go ahead and chain 3. I'm going to skip this stitch, and working only in the chain 1 spaces of the V-stitches, we're going to work a V-stitch, which would be a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet again, and again skipping this stitch and this stitch and only working in the chain 1 space or the center of these V's, work a V-stitch. So go ahead and do that over the 12 V-stitches on this side, and then I'll show you how to work the Celtic weave. Now I'm going to show you how to work the Celtic weave, and this is with the back side facing. Okay, we're going to prepare our hook for that treble crochet. We're not going to skip anything to begin. Whenever you have the back side facing, we always work the first 2 stitches, and I'm going to take some time with this. These are the 2 stitches that are on top on the back side. Okay, so we're going to do 2 back post treble crochets. Okay, now we start skipping. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then we're going to back post treble around the next 2 stitches, which are the 2 stitches that are on the back side here. They are going to always be on top, and this is the stitch where I want you to really try to engage your thumb and the nerve endings in your fingers of your non-dominant hand so that it'll help to guide the hook. So we're going to go ahead and work these 2 stitches, back post treble crochet. Now working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side. So they're going to cross this way, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to back post treble around this stitch and then this stitch. So coming in from the back side, just like this. Again, use the thumb and fingers to try to help you locate the stitch. Oftentimes I will locate the stitch with my thumb and fingers, and then I've located it here. So I know how to guide my hook on the back side. And I know this is tough to pick up, or can be challenging to pick up just from a video, but I'm going to go slow a couple of times so that you see exactly what is happening here and hopefully can pick this up. Okay, so now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, which are these 2 in front of us. Skip these 2 and the next 2. Again, these are residing on top on the back side here. And it does feel like you're reaching across a long way, but you're only skipping 2 stitches. So we're going to back post treble those 2 stitches. You can see when I flip it up, you can see the back side. They're just resting on top for you to pick up like that. Now working in front of them, as seen from the back, from the front side, which is facing away from us. So coming in all the way from behind, and I've already captured that stitch with my finger. I know which one it is. Go ahead and work that back post treble, and then we're going to do another one, and that other stitch is right here. So working again in front, as seen from the front side. It's just like that. This is what it looks like from the back side, and let me show you how this looks from the front side. You can see from the front side how these stitches that we worked after, these 2 are underneath here. These are the 2 stitches we worked first, and then these are the 2 stitches we worked crossing in front as seen from the front side, and I am showing you the front side here. So you can see how this is interwoven. I'll do the rest. I'm going to do the next 4 sets, and then I'll show you how this looks, and hopefully you'll be able to get this. If you need additional stitch support, again, check the video description below. There is a list of the Aran Celtic stitches, and just look at Celtic weave and you will have another view of this stitch. And sometimes just seeing it in a different yarn, different color, for whatever reasons, can be very helpful. All right, so let me show you what I've done. I've worked the back post, 2 back post trebles, and then we started skipping stitches and doing the cross 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we only have 2 stitches left as planned. So what we're going to do, the last 2 stitches of the Celtic weave section, we're going to work 2 back post trebles, and that's without skipping any stitches. You can see I had to add a new ball of yarn at this point. Let's go ahead and turn, and I'm just going to look at this, and I want to try to explain why we didn't skip at the beginning and at the end of this section. So these are the 2 stitches we started with, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places where we skip 2 and basically cross the cables, and then you have the last 2 stitches at the end. We still have a total of 24 stitches in this section. So what's going to happen is on the next row, this is going to curve up, and we're just going to go back to just skipping 2 and crossing 2, and the ends are going to kind of be woven back into the stitches. So I just wanted to be very clear about this, that when you do have the back side facing, you always start with the 2 front post trebles. Now with the front side facing, once we come back to this after the V-stitches, we're going to go back to the skip 2, and then we're going to start with these 2 and then work these 2 stitches over it, and I will show that to you. But anyway, suffice it to say that you work 24 stitches. Again, this is with the back side facing. And just a note about adding the extra balls of yarn. When you do that, make sure that you have the knot or the extra yarn as you join. Make that fall on the back side. This is going to be very easy to hide into the fabric once we get to that point. But make sure that those knots fall easily on the back side, or bring them to the back side of your work as you go. Okay, now back to the V-stitches. Again, we're going to skip this double crochet because we're only working in the chain 1 spaces of those 12 V-stitches, which again, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So why don't you go ahead and finish those 12 V-stitches, and then I'll show you how this row ends. This row ends by working a double crochet into the chain 3 space. So now we're ready to turn, and we're ready to begin row number 8. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so let's go ahead and chain 3 for row 8. Again, we're skipping the first stitch and we're only working in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch, and again, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And you can see how quickly this is going to work up at this rate using this extra large size L hook and this bulky weight yarn. So go ahead and work those 12 V-stitches, and then I'll show you how to begin the Celtic weave again. Now that we've come again to the Celtic weave section, let me show you how we're going to start this row again. Skip the next 2 stitches, or the first 2 stitches of the Celtic weave, and the stitches that are on top, and they're leaning for us this time, so they're easier to identify. Front post treble in those first 2 stitches. I do believe the front side is much easier to work. Now working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble right in those 2 stitches that we skipped. And we do this a total of 6 times across this section. So you can see the first 2 stitches that were down here when the back side was facing where we didn't skip are now going to be kind of going up, and they're going to be worked right back into this pattern stitch. Skip the next 2 stitches, which are hiding back here, and then front post treble in the next 2, and these are going to be on the surface. So you want to make sure that when you cross these that you're crossing the correct stitches, otherwise you kind of end up with a mess. Okay, working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to work the 2 stitches that we skipped. Now notice they are kind of hiding behind these other stitches. We do need to again use our thumb and tall man finger and find that stitch. So here's the first one, and we just work a front post treble around that first stitch, and the second stitch is right beside it. Make sure you locate it with the fingers and your thumb, and then use those nerve endings to help guide your hook around the correct stitch, and then you end up with this beautiful Celtic weave pattern. Let me go ahead and do one more for you. Skip the next 2 stitches, which are back here, and if you're not sure, you can look at the V's on top. These are the 2 stitches that are hiding, and then the 2 stitches that are exposed on the surface there. Those are the first 2 that you work the front post treble, and then again working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped, and again they are hiding. You need to find them. It's not super clear to see, but they are there. And if you skip them and don't work these stitches, you will be short on the next row, I promise you. So let's take a look. So now we have 3 of those. So go ahead and work the next 3, and then I'll help you return to the V stitches. After working those 6 crosses, let me show you something also. This may start to look like it's curling over on you. Don't worry about that, because we have lots of crocheting to do, and that may have a tendency with the front side facing. Usually the back side facing kind of takes some of that curl out, but just trust me on this. This is not going to be a big problem. This will totally resolve once we rework the trim at the end of this project. So don't let that worry you one bit. Okay, so after we've worked those 24 stitches with the front side facing with the Celtic weave, go ahead, again, working only in the chain 1 spaces, work that double crochet V stitch, which again, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in each chain 1 space. Okay, and we're going to do that until we get to the end of the row. And when we get to the end, work your double crochet in the chain 3 space at the end of the row. And after that, I'm going to just go ahead and give you an assignment. Okay, a long assignment. So again, this is rows, okay, 6 that we just finished, 6, 7, and then we're now working on row 8. So what we're going to do after you finish row number 8, you're going to go back and work row 7 again. That's with the back side facing, where you begin the Celtic weave section with those 2 back post trebles. If you need stitch support, I'm going to put a little time mark right across the bottom where you can work, where you can see how to work row 7. So what you're going to do at this point is repeat row 7 and 8, 7 and 8, 7 and 8 again and again until the project is the length that you desire, or according to the number of rows that I have across the bottom here. It'll be the length that you desire minus the section right here. And let me give you a measurement on this right now. Okay, so this section measures approximately, it's really 3 1/4 inches. So you can work this stitch until the throw is the length that you desire, just short of 3 1/4 inches. And then we're going to return to the trim rows once we complete that section. So go ahead and work that, and I will show you how to return to the trim section. All right, let me give you a better view. This is what the Celtic weave looks like after you've worked it several rows. Now I have worked this pattern for a total of 64 rows from the very first start of this throw. At this point, the approximate measurements are 43 inches across and 51 inches long. Now I'm going to go ahead and return to the original foundation that we worked with the 4 post cables and the front post double crochet. So let me go ahead and show you how we're going to do that. I have just completed a row with the front side facing. So the row that we're going to use to discontinue this Celtic weave and the double crochet V stitches is going to be worked with the back side facing. So make sure that we have the back side facing as we begin this row. So now to start this row, we're only going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to work a stitch in between the first stitch and the next V stitch as we begin this. And as we work in the V stitch, we're going to work 1 double crochet in that first double crochet, 1 in the chain 1 space, and 1 in the next V stitch. So basically at this point we're going to work 1 double crochet in each stitch across. For each of the V stitches you should have a total of 3 double crochets worked into those so that you have one in each stitch and one in the chain one space. So go ahead and work that until you get to the Celtic weave section, and then I will work that with you. Once we get to the section where the Celtic weave is, work one extra double crochet in between this V-stitch and the Celtic weave. This is just helping our stitch count to return to the original stitch count. And then after that, we're going to work back post double crochets across all of the Celtic weave section. Make sure that you get all of the stitches. There will be 4 back post double crochets for each of the 4 stitches crossed. Okay, so go ahead and work across that Celtic weave section, and then I'll show you how to transition back to the V stitches. After working the back post double crochets across the Celtic weave, we're not going to put a stitch here. We don't need to, because our stitch count should be back to where it needs to be. And we just go back to working the double crochets into the V stitches, which again will be working a double crochet in the first double crochet, 1 in the chain 1 space, and 1 in the double crochet. So go ahead and work that across the remainder of the row. And at the end of the row, we work a half double crochet into the turning chain. And let's go ahead and turn. And at this point, you should have the front side facing, and we are going to return to the very rows that we worked at the beginning. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to skip that half double, and we're going to work 2 front post double crochets, after we work those 2 front post double crochets, we're going to work the 4 post cable. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in each of the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, we front post treble into the 2 stitches that we just skipped. And the second one right there. And then after that, we're going to work 2 front post double crochet. So just as a reminder, we use the front post doubles for the post stitches, and when we cross the cables, we use the front post trebles. At the end of this row, we work front post double crochets over the last 2 stitches, and then in the turning chain we work a half double crochet. All right, so now for the next row, we're going to turn, chain 2, and we are simply going to work back post double crochets in each stitch across. And the last row and this row, you should, actually for the rest of the project, will have 98 stitches plus the chain 2 turning chain. So go ahead and work this row all the way across with the back post double crochets. Once you complete this row, repeat the row with the cross cables, which is the row right before this. This is going to be, so after you complete this row, we are going to repeat rows 67 and 68 one more time, and then I will show you how to fasten off. After having completed all the rows, I end with a chain and I pull it tight. And let me just give you a quick tutorial on how to hide these loose ends. It's actually quite easy. With this fluffy material, you can easily bring this extra stitch or extra strand down into the work, and let me just show you just how quickly it just disappears and you don't even see it. So once I rethread that, let's just go ahead and bring this down, into the work. Again, hiding it on the back side of the work. And you can't even tell the thread is being hidden. And I like to go the opposite direction when hiding these loose strands, just to be sure that they truly are hidden. So let's go back up into the work just a little bit. And like I said, this yarn is much easier to hide these loose strands because it's just so soft. You do need to be careful though. You want to be careful not to pull too tightly on this, as if you haven't found out already, it can break quite easily. All right, so that loose end is hidden into the work. I have several more to work on, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these, and then I will show you the results. Well, I hope you enjoyed making the quick and cozy Celtic weave throw with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you. Please comment below. God bless. Bye-bye.